Welcome to this live stream, everyone. My name is Michael Martin, and I am not the Healthy Pitmaster. You're normally seeing the Healthy Pitmaster. Jim's wife had a procedure today, and so he asked me to try to fill in, and so that's what I am here to try to do. And so we're going to be talking about several things tonight. We have a special guest here tonight to give a testimonial, and we're going to be talking about the Feel Great system. We're going to be talking about things like how we can begin to try to control our blood pressure, our cholesterol, our type 2 diabetes, and things of that nature. Because me personally, 13 months ago, I was a type 2 diabetic. And matter of fact, I was on 25 pills per day 13 months ago,
Wow.
just to sustain life every day. And that was my kind of like my daily routine, and struggling with chronic fatigue. Out of those 25, I were on 8 blood pressure pills a day, Dr. Tiffany, 8 blood pressure pills a day. And, I was kind of hopeless, kind of helpless. And, of all places, I was just scrolling through TikTok one day, and I came across the Healthy Pitmaster and some more talking about this protocol that we're going to talk about. And, I was kind of skeptical at first. I really didn't know what these people were talking about, because my endocrinologist for 12 years never told me that I could even reverse type 2 diabetes.
Mhm.
I thought it was a chronic onset condition that I was going to have to live with. And I was just uneducated. I really didn't know. And I just knew they put me on all these medications and everything to try to manage my symptoms. And then that turned into more and more and more. And so welcome everybody that's coming in tonight. And so if you're joining a live stream right now, do us a favor. Invite 5 people. Invite 5 people to the live stream.
Yes.
And let's try to get as many as we can, as many as possible, to understanding insulin resistance and metabolic health. And we're very, very fortunate that Dr. Tiffany is here with us. She dedicates her time for free every week, and we're so thankful that she is here.
For free. I'm not getting paid. Wait a
No,
minute, what
not
happened?
tonight. You're not getting paid tonight. And so go ahead, Dr. Tiffany, and tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Yes, I'm Dr. Tiffany. I'm a double board certified physician in family and lifestyle medicine. I've been practicing for 20 years in family medicine and did urgent care, did private practice. And then the last 3 years, I did virtual primary care, to where I was taking care of people across 48 states. And so that's when I got to see just how unhealthy we really are as Americans. And it's even global. But it was with that I decided that I needed to make a change. I need to help my patients need less medications, and I had to figure out how to do that. So I got board certified in lifestyle medicine, which is about going after the root causes of conditions, and had to sit down for that test and learned a lot of things. Saw the studies on how our lifestyle actually can reverse these issues, on which I'll talk about later. And then I became a metabolic health coach, certified in that under the illustrious Dr. Ben Bickman, one of the leading authorities on insulin and fat studies. He calls himself the fat scientist. So after doing all that, I started getting on social media, because who doesn't want to tell the whole world? I mean, I wanted to tell the whole world. And that's how I got connected with Marie, who told me about these natural products we're going to go into. I started using them for myself, got off of my blood pressure medicine, started to have that smaller waist that I wanted to have, started to help my brother get off his insulin, his Trulicity, his metformin. I literally took his happy tail out the ICU and started him on these products, as well as help my mom reverse her pre-diabetes and be able to wear her heels again. I do this for the quality of life and be able to help people need less meds. So this is why I do this every week without getting paid.
Well, I mean, we are extremely thankful, Dr. Tiffany, for your time, because, it's just amazing that of the people that in the medical field that's becoming more and more and more present. I mean, because we've got doctors, we've got uh, physicians, we've got pharmacists, we've got a lot of people in the medical field that's learning more and more about insulin resistance, and we're just thankful for that. And so, once again, if you're just coming into the live stream, go ahead and just hit the little @ symbol if you're on Facebook. Share this live stream out to at least 5 people. Somebody that may be part of your family, that may be some of your friends that you might know that's struggling with these health conditions, because, you know, Selena Gomez has got a perfect saying: when if you're struggling with your health, you don't have to be. And we're trying to teach you ways, trying to educate you. The purpose for these live streams is to try to provide some education for you. And so, with that being said, Dr. Tiffany, Jim has a guest lined up for us tonight, and I'd like to go ahead and bring our guest on. I got to meet this man back in January. Stumbled across him on TikTok, and the guy's got high energy. I just loved his TikToks and things. And so David has a pretty amazing story. David, we're glad you're here with us tonight, brother. And so what I'd like to ask you, David, is where were you at in your health wise when you first started this protocol, and maybe some of the things that you've been able to do since you've been on this protocol that maybe you can relate with some of us, how it can help some of us. So go ahead, brother.
Once again, my name is David Whitmire. I'm from Alabama. Dr. Tiffany, it is good to meet you.
I didn't know you from Alabama.
Yep.
Oh, goodness. Oh, so he's good people here. I'm already done. I love this already. Get going.
Hey, I got to say, in Alabama's in the house. All right, Dr. Tiffany, here's the story. I'm going to back up about a year ago before the products, okay? So a year ago, a little over a year ago, I was 42 years old. And 42 years old, you know as well as I know, we're in our prime of life. You know, we're living the best life, right? So listen, my mother passed away at 33 years old. And the doctors told me that 2021 that I started beginning to get these problems. And doctor said, it's just, they pull your medical history on your mom and your dad, right? And so, these things are hereditary. You're just going to have to deal with them. We're going to treat them the best we can, but you are never going to get rid of your high blood pressure, your high cholesterol, your type 2 diabetes. And eventually you will be in a wheelchair, you'll be paralyzed, you won't be able to walk from the arthritis caused from all of these things. You'll get your rheumatoid arthritis, you'll get psoriatic arthritis I had psoriasis for 15 years, and all these things that they was telling me, and I would just develop other things. You know this, you're a doctor. And so they was telling me stages of things that would happen. I'm just like, the mental capacity that these things was going to happen was very overwhelming. More or less, these things was just happening to me. And so a year ago, I go to my dad's house, Dr. Tiffany. Literally, my wife I had to call her a mile before I'd get home, and I said, I need your help getting out of the car. She would lift me up like as if I was an 85-year-old man, and I'm not kidding at all. And she would walk me in the house. Sometimes my son would be so bad, my son would be on my right side, and my daughter, my wife, would be on my left side. They would walk me all the way in the house. I would get to I would get to my recliner. That's where I would stay because I just couldn't get up. Wow. So when they got me up, I'd go to bed. You have to help me in the bed. Next morning, she'd have to help me put my shirt on, my socks on, my shoes on. And then, so I went to my dad and I said, Dad, I took him out on his porch. I said, I need to have a talk with you. And so this is in Flat Rock, Alabama, about an hour from my house. And I said, Dad, I'm dying. I said, I feel like I'm physically dying. I said, I'm getting worse by the day. I said, he asked me what was going on. I said, I have no clue. I have no clue. The doctors have no clue. They're telling me it's hereditary. I said, my stomach hurts. My joints hurt. My arms hurt. A year ago, Dr. Tiffany, I could only raise my arms to here, and I couldn't do this at all.
Wow.
My hands was coming like this. If you see my fingers, it still have it. My fingers, the only thing. My hair ain't come back. And my finger didn't go back, okay? But my shoulders and my hips, it was declining every day. I was getting worse, worse, worse. They were sending me to vision doctors, to cardiologists. They want to send me to rheumatoid arthritis, all these doctors. But when I would get to them, they're like, this is hereditary from your mom. This is what's going to happen. This, you know how it is. So I was, at that time, I couldn't work. And so I got, can y'all hear me? Somebody tried to call me, so it might have paused me.
Yeah. We can hear you now. Yes.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Did I go out?
You, David. You're back.
Michael, can you hear me?
Yes.
I see myself, but I don't see you guys at all.
Oh, okay. Can you hear us? Because we can hear you.
Can y'all hear me?
Uh-oh, I guess not. We can.
That was odd.
And he was
Can
on
you
the
hear me,
roll.
Dr. Marie? Dr. Tiffany, can you hear me?
Yes, I sure can. We all
I have
can.
no clue what is happening.
That's okay. He was on the roll too, Michael. Wasn't getting good.
Yeah.
I was already on the edge of my seat. Like everybody else, we're like, keep going. Boy, I love how his joints have gotten better. His hands have gotten better, even though they're not 100%. I think it's so important for us to remember that everybody's on a journey. You may not get your 100% immediately. It's going to take a little longer. It takes insulin resistance 10, 15 years. Great. You back? Can you hear us?
I have no clue what happened. What was the last thing you heard? What was the last thing you heard me say, Dr. Tiffany? I'm so sorry.
Right before your phone went out, we heard you. We heard you as soon as you came back. You just didn't hear us.
Okay, so what was the last thing you heard me say?
You were talking about the arthritis in your hands. Your hair didn't grow back.
Okay, so I wasn't able to work for a while. I'm going to say 6 or 8 months, and then in February, so Michael, I tried to do some stuff online to try to make money, so I was going live. So me and Michael started to get to know one another that way. Some of my friends I've known for 20 years moved to his hometown. I let him know that I was coming. He said, "Great, I want to meet you. Let's have lunch." So I got down there to his town. He said, "I want you to try this. I've been watching you." And he didn't say these words, but this is how I felt. I felt like Michael Martin was watching me die. And so I couldn't go live anymore. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't lay down in my recliner. I had to sit straight up for 5 weeks. I had three near-death experiences in February. Wow. I could not lay back this much. It was like I had congestive heart failure. So Michael gave me that free box, and time rocks on. And guys, I'm telling you, I decided I'm going to get on this product. And here's the thing. I'm on no more meds. No more jabs. 56 pounds down.
Wow.
All my skin tags fell off.
Mm-hmm.
My psoriasis is gone after 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
The arthritis is gone, except in that little finger. It's still there. You know how arthritis does. Mm-hmm. But I had it so bad in my shoulders. Back then, I was taking 10 to 12 Tylenol and stuff every single day, and it did never touch it. I suffered all day long. All of that is gone. I work 9. Am I gone? No. If you can hear me. But anyways, guys, listen, somebody's trying to call me. It's freezing. I've never done a restream before. But if you can hear me, I was working 9.5 hours a day. I'm working 9.5 hours a day. I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. And, look, I could go 24 hours. I'm full of energy like I'm 19 again. If you guys can hear me. And the only thing I've done, a year ago, I couldn't even get out of my car by myself. Now, every evening, we go walk 1 to 3 miles every single day. My wife, after 40 years, she no longer snores. She goes to the restroom every day. She wasn't able to go but 2 times a week. My daughter's 20 years old. She's had acid reflux since birth, and she's reversed her acid reflux. My son is down over 30 pounds. My whole family is doing this. It has changed my life forever. We have the best product in the world. Right now, guys, is the right time. We are involved with the best company, and Dr. Tiffany, you can go ahead. It looks like I'm going to have to leave and come back in. I hope all you guys heard me, but look, I'll leave and I'll be back in a minute once this unfreezes. But anyways, guys, I appreciate your time. Thank you for hearing my testimony. And if you ain't following our journey, please follow my journey. And whoever brought you here, get with them and let them tell you about this protocol, guys.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, I'm glad you kept going.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Fantastic.
When I first met David, we started having some private conversations, and I knew that he was struggling. He and I got to meet him in person here in Belmont, Mississippi, and I just told him I was like, "Here, I want you to have this," and I gave him the protocol, and then he got pretty doggone sick. He ended up in the hospital, I believe, 3 times in February. He was struggling to breathe. They kept him on oxygen, and but thankfully he's pulled through, and he is on the path to success and to the path of getting better health. And so I'm going to go ahead, Dr. Tiffany, and let you tell us about what exactly these products are that's helping so many people right now.
Well, what we're first going to do is we're going to talk about what the issue is. What are we really dealing with? What are we treating? We're going to talk about insulin resistance and how we got there, and that insulin resistance isn't just diabetes, right? It's not just diabetes anymore. It never was, but we're here to kind of shed the light on the truth. So you can see my screen, can't you, Michael?
Yes.
Alrighty, so let's talk about the problem. The problem is cardiometabolic health. And from this Tufts University study, what they actually saw was that only 7% of Americans have good cardiometabolic health, suggesting that the other 93% don't. Okay. The study didn't say that exactly, but that sure is what that suggests to me, right? And so as a physician, the medication that we prescribe to try to help this is a statin, and that's a very commonly prescribed medication, and it only decreases the cardiovascular risk by 1 out of 100 people. That's 1%. But if you start making lifestyle changes, you can actually improve your metabolic risk by 39%. And so I always love to bring this up. The fact that heart disease is still the number one killer is a problem. It's been the number one killer in the US for years. And even with the change in what we were doing, it didn't really knock this out of first place. Why? Apparently, some of the things we're teaching aren't doing the job. And so that's when it becomes, okay, let me just revamp this and figure out what's happening. Well, if you're looking at the wheel of misfortune, what you see in the middle is insulin resistance and your heart disease, your fatty liver, even things like cancer or polycystic ovarian syndrome. Sarcopenia, that's the loss of muscle that happens with age, but it's even worse with insulin resistance. Migraines, arthritis. We heard David talk about the arthritis, dementia, body fat, all these things. But insulin is at the root. And so if that sounds a little strange for you, if you're new to this call, that might not be something you've heard of. And so we're going to talk about it. So what is insulin resistance? Now, I think it's important to understand the symptoms. We were talking about the skin tags, his skin tags falling off, the psoriasis, which is all awesome stuff because people would probably think that's not related to insulin resistance. Oh, but it is. And the skin tags, they happen because insulin, it can actually act like a growth hormone. So you get the overgrowth of skin flaps on your neck, under your arms, even on your face or on your thighs or your abdomen. You can get the overlapping of skin to where you get dark patches on your neck, under your eyes, under your arms. And that's not dirt. It doesn't wash off. The cravings for sugar and salty, feeling like you need to eat every couple hours, the difficulty losing weight around the midsection, the brain fog, the fatigue, even especially after meals. All these things are either linked directly or linked indirectly to insulin resistance. And I'm going to go into a few of those now. But let's talk about the macronutrients. So when we eat food, it's either going to get broken down into, it's either in a family of carbohydrates, proteins, or fats. And so that's important because we understand where these macronutrients are that are causing a lot of the issues that we can start to address our lifestyle, right? So carbohydrates, this arrow here is a representation of what insulin does. So the red line is carbohydrates. So when you eat carbohydrates, your insulin level goes up significantly. That's why you see that high spike. When you eat proteins, that's the blue line, your insulin level goes up a little bit, not that much. But when you eat healthy fats, barely any. So if we look at maybe a day a random day for lots of people, because most of us, if we're honest, we're told we need to eat every couple hours. I know because I told this to some people. And the easiest things to eat or grab tend to be in the carbohydrate family, but your breakfast. So say you wake up in the morning, have your breakfast, and it's carbohydrate full. You know, it's your cereal, it's your oatmeal, it's your toast. Okay, those are all carbohydrates that get broken down into glucose, and that's what this arrow is. So your breakfast, if it's high in carbohydrates, is going to make a lot of glucose. Then your poor pancreas has to release insulin to get that glucose into the cells to use that for energy. Okay, and then because you had a good amount of glucose, insulin had to be really high to bring it down, you're going to have a drop. And you're going to kind of feel sluggish, and you're going to want to snack in a couple hours. And the easiest snacks are carbohydrates. You don't have any protein sticks in those vending machines, do you? Most of us aren't carrying around any extra pieces of chicken breast when we go to the office. Most of those snacks are in the carbohydrate family. Then you turn around and you have lunch. And lunch, the quickest things that we find are usually things like what? Maybe wraps, sandwich, pizza, carbohydrate, carbohydrate, carbohydrate. Going to kick up the glucose, then make the pancreas have to release insulin again. And then you get that afternoon drop, and then dinner, and then dessert if you have dessert. And what happens is over time, your cells are being bathed in all this insulin. Okay. And so the little black figurine here, that's insulin trying to push the glucose molecule into the liver, muscle, and fat cells to use that energy. Okay. And what happens is over time, the liver, muscle, and fat cells, they try to tell insulin, nope, you can't put any more in me. I'm done. I'm overwhelmed. Well, when that happens, that's more of your end stage insulin resistance. So that's going to be things like pre-diabetes and diabetes. That's when your sugars are getting up in your bloodstream, because that's the end stage of insulin resistance. And the reality is 9 out of 10 people don't know they even have this. And 1 out of 3 adults actually do have pre-diabetes. This is before diabetes. And then diabetes, type 2 diabetes. 1 out of every 10 people are struggling, but 1 out of every 4 don't know they have it. Okay. So pre-diabetes, that's when your A1C is 5.7 to 6.4. Diabetes is when your A1C is 6.5 and above. But what happens when your A1C is in the normal range? What's happening there? Your sugar's not high. And I call this frustration land. This is the place where people come in with symptoms with the skin tags, the psoriasis, the difficulty losing weight, no matter how much they decrease the calories and increase the exercise, the fatigue. They come in and they're like, I know I have diabetes. My auntie acted just like this, and she had diabetes, but their labs are normal. Well, what's happening is they aren't at the end stage. They're having all these symptoms, but their poor body still has a lot of insulin. That black figurine is raising, the pancreas is increasing the amount of insulin to pushing that glucose, but the glucose is still getting in the cells, it's forcing that glucose in there. So there's no glucose in the bloodstream, but there's insulin. And so we could catch this stage if we started checking a fasting insulin. And so that's not commonly checked. Now, what happens when your insulin is high? When your insulin is high, it actually affects your blood pressure. It causes your kidneys to hold on to sodium. And since water follows sodium, that's going to increase blood volume, and that would increase blood pressure. But that's part of it. And then it impairs nitric oxide production. Nitric oxide dilates blood vessels. So when you have that increased blood volume, if you have stiffened blood vessels, that's going to increase the pressure. Okay. And then when you have inflammation inside the blood vessels and it's not a smooth surface, in order to get through that, that's going to increase the pressure. And then hyperlipidemia, that's high cholesterol. So it causes the liver to actually make more of the LDL small particles. Those are the particles that get into the blood lining and actually cause that whole lumen inside the blood vessel to get smaller and smaller and smaller. So you get things like heart attacks and strokes, but it also decreases the good cholesterol, the HDL, and it increases triglycerides. That's why looking at triglycerides is a good marker to understand if you have insulin resistance. And then with polycystic ovarian syndrome, the leading cause of infertility for women, you get more cysts on the ovaries, you get weight gain, you get problems with hair loss or hair production on the face or on the abdomen because you have an increase in testosterone. Okay. And it affects our menstrual cycles, making it hard to drop those eggs in order to get pregnant. So it definitely affects fertility for so many women. The great thing is when we start dealing with the insulin resistance, we see women being able to have children again. I even have a picture of baby Sam when his mom wasn't able to have children for years. And then after 4 months of using these products, there he is. And I love to see those types of results. And then insulin resistance comes right along with inflammation. And that inflammation plays a role. Okay. I mean, the arthritis, we heard about that, right? But when you have that chronic inflammation, what it does is it impairs T cell function, and T cells function's job is to attack things that aren't supposed to be there, right? It's supposed to tell your body what not to attack. Better yet, I'm sorry, tell your body what not to attack. Well, when you start having a gut, because your microbiome in your gut has trains of bacteria in it, well, when you don't feed it the right things, that bacteria in your gut starts to eat at the lining and starts to cause permeability, leakiness. And so things seep out that aren't supposed to be seeping out. Also, you get bacteria or yeast forming there that aren't supposed to be there. That inflammation makes that worse. And so over time, you get that stuff leaking out the gut, and your poor body doesn't know what to attack. So it starts to attack not just that, but you as well. And that's how you get things like the rheumatoid arthritis. You can get the lupus. You can get things like MS attacking the brain. All those things are linked to inflammation, which is why there's great data on reversing or increasing your fiber, not reversing, but increasing your fiber to affect those autoimmune conditions. Now, there's 5 things you can do immediately on your own without even using the products we like. There are. So if you do more of a low glycemic index diet to where you decrease your carbohydrate intake, that could be helpful if you understand where the insulin comes from, right? Avoiding the processed foods because nobody needs to eat those. I mean, there's just no diet in the world that should act like that's okay. There's too many fillers in there, too many other things in there that are just not helpful for us. Exercising, including resistance training, high fiber, because fiber is very helpful. I'm going to go into that. And time-based eating. So when I say stop processed foods, I'm talking about everything in the middle of the grocery store. Pretty much all this stuff right here. Probably all the stuff that most of us used to eat all the time. That whole breakfast is the most important day, the meal of the day thing. And we were all eating cereal because our poor moms had to go to work. Yeah, that was a hot mess. That had us all in this processed stuff that was not helping us. And those foods can be addictive. There's 8 signs to your body being addicted to sugar. And I mean, there's so many things. You feel like you have to eat a snack all the time. You drink a lot of juice, but it's not just a point of willpower. There is actually a problem with the sugar affecting your dopamine. That's the neurotransmitter that gets kicked up whenever you do something that's fun, that's exciting. And so sugar can do that. Protein doesn't do that. Fat doesn't do that, but sugar can. And so it gives you that idea of thinking you've got to have this, and like it's calling your name, like you can't stop. So having something to help you take back control is important, is crucial. And then our carbs really much don't have the fiber like they used to. That's the other problem. They aren't fibering like they should. And so when you take out all the fiber, you miss the benefits. Our white rice is nice and fluffy. There's no fiber in there protecting us from that glucose spike. Nothing there. We need that back. When we have the fiber, it helps us block inflammation. It actually dampens the sugar spike, which is huge because we want to dampen that sugar spike so that way we don't make the pancreas release as much insulin. Because if you have insulin resistance, you have too much insulin in the bloodstream. We need that to come down. And then when that comes down, it allows the cells to become more insulin sensitive. Okay, and then the polyphenols all in your vegetables, that's the different colors. We need to eat the rainbow, all the different colors. We need to eat at least 30 grams of fiber in all the different colors. And if that sounds like a lot to you, I mean, it should, because it is. And so having something that gives you that fiber back is huge. And then fasting, this is usually when I lose a lot of people because people are like, I'm not missing a meal, but there's so many benefits to this. The cellular detox that happens, the improvement in your immune system with certain amount of hours to where you aren't fasting, you aren't making your pancreas eat. When you are fasting, you aren't making your pancreas release insulin because you aren't eating. And so it gives your gut a break, allows your gut to regenerate after 24 hours. You can actually boost your dopamine receptors, which is huge for my people with addictions and sugar addiction. So many great things happen. But when you're dealing with insulin resistance, fasting beyond 2 to 3 hours is a little hard to do. So GLP-1, this has become so fancy. Everybody and their mama's on that. In fact, 1 out of 8 people are on these shots. But we have this hormone in our gut. It's released by our small intestine. And what it does is it delays gastric emptying and it activates satiety centers, making us think we're full. Okay. And so Big Pharma figured out how to make this into some sort of pharmaceutical. And we have a couple of them. A few of them have been out for a while, but the ones that are getting a lot of press are your Ozempic and Wegovy. And those are shots that bind to the receptor and pretend like they're your GLP-1. They aren't replacing it, but they pretend like they're your GLP-1 hormone to your body. And so what about the long-term metabolic health effects? Yeah, there's some. I like to call it baggage. I mean, the 40% of the weight that you do lose is your lean body mass. So that's your bone and your muscle. Who doesn't need their bone and muscle? I need mine. So losing that is a problem. And then the serious complications: thyroid cancer, pancreatitis, gastroparesis, where your stomach doesn't want to be able to push the food out. Yeah, that's a little problematic. Same thing with gut perforation. We just talked about leaky gut. We don't want holes in our gut to be leaking more things out, right? And then how they help the cravings, because they turn off the food noise, which is what that hormone can do. That stops working after 2 years. And what I used to see in practice is people needing more of the dose or more medications. And then, of course, when it comes time to stop, if people stop abruptly, what we see is that they gain that weight back with the quickness. And they not only gain it back, they gain more fat because they lose so much muscle. It's hard for them to actually regain the muscle. So what do? We find a natural solution. We find something that doesn't have these crazy amount of side effects. So having something that has the chlorogenic acid in it, which the drink that I like to drink, this yerba mate blend, that actually has more chlorogenic acid in it. That improves glucose uptake in the muscles, which is great. We want it out the bloodstream, right? So that way our pancreas isn't releasing insulin. It reduces inflammation and oxidative stress. So great, right? But then you have ferulic acid, which goes to the gut. That's why we need our gut working at its best, is because it gets broken down. And it even stops the breakdown of GLP-1. So the combination of those things in there are awesome. Then you have theobromine, dilates the blood vessels, helps with the blood pressure, helps even with the breathing because it dilates the bronchioles. Then you have supplements. They even have antiparasitic effects and even help with the cholesterol too. Now, because we talked about the gut, we want to feed our gut the right foods. So having the fiber matrix that's in this product too, we're feeding our gut the right things we need to feed it. So it doesn't have to go feeding on itself. So it doesn't have to invite other players to the party, things that aren't supposed to be in our gut. That would be dysbiosis. We don't want that. So we're able to address all of this with the 2 products we like to use. The reality is your insulin resistance is not something that you have to get from Aunt Susie. Okay. It's not. It 100% can be fixed by what you do with your lifestyle, how you eat, how you drink, how you manage your stress, how you even get your sleep. So I hope that this empowers you to take your health back, because that's my whole goal, even though I have my little white coat on, but that's my whole goal, is for people to be empowered with the education to take their health back. I am just a doctor tired of writing just prescriptions and want to help people reclaim their health. And so you can follow me on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. Every single week it gets better and better and better. I'm just amazed that I learn more every single week from you, and I absolutely love that. Love that. And when I first started this protocol, you mentioned fasting a while ago.
Uh-oh. Is that me? What's happening? Uh-oh. Hello? Is it me? Because I can't hear anymore. What happened? Is it me? Hello? I guess it's me. Huh. Oh, Michael is out. Okay, it's not. Oh, okay. Well, okay. Michael froze. Well, okay. So we talked about insulin resistance. That means you guys heard me keep saying, is it me? Oh, that's so funny. You gotta love technology, don't you? Because I was about to leave the room. It would have been nobody here. Anyhow, okay. First off, the reason why I look like a crazy person, because I don't wear all this makeup. I was actually doing a TV interview for a event that Yvette and I are doing in the Alabama area. So if you're in the Huntsville, Alabama area, we want to see you there. Definitely find me on my page because I can give you the flyers, but we're so excited about that. So I can take over, of course. We were talking about insulin resistance. We were talking about all these conditions that are related to that. So what are these products, right? Okay. So one is Unimate. That is the yerba mate matrix drink we're talking about. That's the drink that actually The herb, the extract, it comes from Argentina. Okay. Thanks, Jennifer. It comes from Argentina. They actually know the farmer, which is awesome because we actually know where it's coming from, right? But they purify it down to where they get an increased amount of the chlorogenic acid, which you saw on my slides. It's huge. It allows you to absorb that sugar out the bloodstream, which is what we need to happen. Helps the cells become more insulin sensitive. In fact, this actual yerba mate extract drink, what it does is it acts similar to metformin without the side effects. Okay. And then on top of that, it even acts similar to the statins without the side effects. Okay. It decreases the liver. It causes the liver to decrease the increase of cholesterol, which is huge. So yes, I used to call this. In fact, I did a post and said, oh, this is my metformin in a bottle. Oh, this is my statin in a bottle. It is much more than that, but I love that it does that. On top of this, for my people that have difficulty fasting, because it boosts GLP-1 and turns off the food noise and the cravings, what happens? It makes it easier to fast. So when I start people and I say, okay, if fasting is hard, let's start with something simple. Just no snacking between your meals. So eat your 3 meals, right? So if your last meal is at 8 p.m. and your first meal is at 8 in the morning, that's 12 hours of fasting, right? And so that seems doable because you're sleeping through most of that, right? You just slept. So you're like, okay, I slept. I can do that. Well, when we start drinking this tea as soon as we wake up, we push back that breakfast to maybe 10 o'clock. And so now we're at 14 hours. If we push it back to 12, then we're at 16 hours. Yeah, I was just going over the yerba mate blend and how it helps us with the fasting and how it's a statin in a bottle, a metformin in a bottle, and so much more.
I didn't touch a thing. It just said you are disconnected, and it sat there spinning, trying to reconnect. And
gotta love technology. Gotta love it. That is okay. That is okay. You want to talk about the fiber blend? Is that what you were going to go on and do too?
Well, you mentioned about fasting. When I first found out about this protocol, and I found out that I was going to have to fast, I was like, oh my Lord, there's absolutely no way I could do this, because I had those cravings every 2 to 3 hours. And I was like, I'll give this a shot, because the company offers a 90-day money-back happiness guarantee.
Yes.
And I'll try it, but I don't really know if I could do it or not. And but since I've started this protocol 13 months ago, fasting has been absolutely very easy, along with consuming the yerba mate. And I was kind of shocked, kind of surprised, because, I was literally buying about 5 pizzas a week just to try to fill in those hunger cravings and sugar cravings that I was had, because they are powerful. Yes. I personally know how addictive those are. And it would be to the point to where I felt like if I didn't get some food, that I was literally going to eat the sheetrock off the wall. I would just get what I thought was getting so hungry. I had plenty of, visceral fat and everything else to dig into to try to get energy from. And, and so, that makes me think of Angus Barbieri. A lot of people don't know who Angus Barbieri is, but he is literally a guy that did a medical fast for 382 days. He did a medical fast. And I think when people hear that, they associate that with, all he done was basically starvation. No, he didn't starvation. He was using some, it wasn't a dry fast. It was a liquid fast. He was drinking some teas and some water and some coffee, a little bit of yeast, some vitamins, and it was a medically fast. And then that kind of makes us think, well, a bear, what does a bear do when it hibernates? It's constantly eating and eating and eating and eating until when a bear goes into hibernation. We find that out, when we're 5-6 years old, when we think of Winnie the Pooh. And fasting is so helpful, though. It literally resets our gut health. And about 90% of our serotonin, which our brain uses for mood and anxiety, depression, things like that, comes from our gut health. And fasting has so many benefits. I've done one 72-hour fast. I've done a couple of 36-hour fasts. And it's really amazing how well you feel, how much clearer the mind is when you start running off of the ketones and things like that. And
Oh, yeah.
this particular fiber that we have, you know, it was studied by the Cleveland Clinic, arguably one of the number one cardiovascular clinics that we have in the United States. And they studied our fiber that we use on this protocol, and they said if taken daily, it could reduce cardiovascular risk on a population basis and potentially eliminate the need and or dose for lipid-lowering prescription drugs, which are our statin medications. As you well know, that the number one prescribed medication in the United States is Lipitor, atorvastatin calcium. And, you know, when we go get our blood work done, there y'all going to do that blood panel, you know, and check our triglycerides and cholesterol and HDL and things like that. And some doctors get really excited if they're slightly elevated, and they're like, you know, we've got to put you on that statin. And I have studies from PubMed that show that, you know, statins cause insulin resistance. And so this protocol using the fiber, you know, it's one of the only things that you can find in the physician's desk reference that is a supplemental replacement for a statin medication. And you see the study right particular there, assessing the link between statins and insulin tolerance. This is a systematic review. This takes all the studies that's been done on it. And you can see in this study right here that about 47 million participants in this study, the findings suggest that the use of statins is associated with a decrease in insulin sensitivity and insulin resistance. This systematic review provides the evidence that the use of statins may have an adverse effect on insulin sensitivity and increase the insulin resistance. And that is a study right there that is an amazing study. There's the proof that statin medications, you know, literally causes insulin resistance. And that's what we're trying to avoid. And this fiber matrix is amazing. It helps to slow down the body's ability to process that carbohydrate because it's 7 different plant-based fibers, both soluble and insoluble. And when we eat the carbohydrate that turns into the glucose, it kind of creates a gelatinous-like coating in our stomach and digestive tract that slows down the body's ability to process it. And if we can keep the glucose spike down, then naturally we're going to keep the insulin spike down. And that's what our goal is to try to avoid hyperinsulinemia, which is simply too much insulin in the bloodstream. And so, yeah, we have the best products on the planet, Dr. Tiffany. Absolutely, because as I stated at the beginning of the live stream, this right here was my life 13 months ago. 25 of these every single day just to sustain life every day. And I've started this protocol right here, doing the intermittent fasting, consuming more chlorogenic acid, and, you know, getting more fiber in my diet. And then now, 34 years of blood pressure medications, I don't have to take any of them now. Out of those 25 that I was taking to sustain life every day, the only thing I take now is a Zyrtec. And that's it. I've dropped 128 pounds without even really trying. And my doctor literally called me at the end of 90 days. At the end of 90 days, my A1C went from 8.8 to 5.7. His nurse practitioner called me and said, hey, we've got your blood work results. You don't have to take that metformin and that glipizide anymore if you don't want to. You're within range. And so, you know, I notified her. I appreciate you calling and letting me know, but I actually quit taking that crap 6 weeks ago. So that really, you know, I said, yes. I said, I've been seeing y'all for about 12 years as a type 2 diabetic, and not one time did you ever tell me that type 2 was reversible. I said, you did tell me to eat less and exercise more, and that's good advice. But, I had tried the Herbalife and the Isogenics, the Jenny Craig, the Weight Watchers, the Atkins. I'd tried multiple things about eating less and maybe not so much exercising more, but, within 6 months of being put on metformin, max dose, I started developing numbness in my toes and feet. And I go back to the doctor and they're like, well, you've got neuropathy because you've got sugar. And 12 years ago, I didn't know anything about insulin resistance. And since I've been doing this health journey, the PDR, I typed in my metformin. Third thing on the list was vitamin B12 deficiency. And they've been telling me for 10 years that I was vitamin B12 deficient. And I'm thinking, wow, that is one of the number one causes of neuropathy. And metformin is one of the things that causes it. No, thank you. And so I had a conversation with my local doctor here, and I began to go from 2,000 milligrams down to 1,000 milligrams, down to about 500. And I stopped because my glucose numbers were in normal range. And so
that's
absolutely
great.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
That's great. I love it. I love to hear your story, Michael, because it's wonderful. So there is a question that's in here that we need to address.
Okay.
So yeah, we had to wait till we were able to get to it, Donna. Did you see it? Yeah. So a couple things. So there's two things that can be happening. There is something like Don phenomenon that Renee was talking about. Hey, Renee, thanks for responding to that in the chat. But there's also something called Samoji effect. So sometimes if we don't eat enough the night before, we don't have enough calories, we actually may dip a little bit, and then our body has to have a rebound effect with the blood sugar. That's Samoji effect. So when my patients when my members complain about these things, I first do a 24-hour dietary recall or 2 or 3 days recall to figure out what they've been eating, how much before bedtime, those types of things. And then the Don phenomenon, and this is for everybody. You don't have to be a diabetic for this. But because diabetics have a problem with their insulin levels and how they metabolize glucose, they do things differently. So when we wake up, there's particular hormones that want to wake us up: adrenaline, glucagon, cortisol. And their job is to get that liver to push out glucose to wake us up. So we start having energy to do the day. Well, when you're a diabetic, you don't respond to that well. And so your sugars may be higher. So those are two things that could be happening. So in understanding what's going on, be talking to your sponsor and going over how you're eating and figure out what's happening there. Now, if it is something like Don phenomenon, keep giving that some more time. That's actually going to get better. That doesn't keep staying elevated.
I've noticed during my experience with this that my glucose readings are always higher in the morning time from that Don phenomenon. Absolutely.
Yep.
I'm looking for, let's see, I don't see any other questions. Okay. I believe if David is still in the background, we'll bring David back in and we'll get ready to try to wrap this up. And David, I appreciate you being here. We've made it through. We struggled just a little bit, but we made it through. And,
you done good, Michael.
And brother, I'd just like to ask you, 30 seconds to a minute or so. If somebody asked you that was considering using this product or whatever, and they was still a little bit unsure, just kind of tell us what maybe you might tell them.
If they were unsure?
If they were on the fence and really wasn't unsure about this.
What I can tell you is my testimony. I am the living proof. I guess what gets me is y'all heard me talk about my dad a year ago, telling him y'all heard me say that the talk with my dad. 3 weeks ago, I go back and talk to my dad. And I said, Dad, you remember that talk we had a year ago? He said, oh, yes, sir. I do remember that. And I said, well, let me just tell you. 56 pounds down, feeling better than ever. And I said, Dad, I said, look, I can walk, I can talk, I can see. No more cardiologist, no more rheumatoid arthritis. And I said, I have nothing. I said, look, my wife ain't even had to help me get up and off the couch. Now my stepmother, she's skeptic of everything, and she said, well, I just don't, I ain't gonna take nothing like that. And I said, well, I just jumped up and I said, look at here. I said, I couldn't do that the last time I was here. I don't go there a whole lot, you know. He works, I work. You know how life is. And she's amazed at how different I am, because my wife was having to pull me up, set me down, and I couldn't. My hands and my arms hurt me so bad. I had to have help. But let me tell you something, Dr. Tiffany. I've got to throw this in there, because when we're in the lifestyle of putting our trust in something that we believe in, this is what gets me. This is gonna blow your mind. 12.5 Manjaro. They sent me home on a Friday with Manjaro and 20 units of insulin. Listen, and glipizide. You take all this for type 2 diabetes now. You take all this. The next morning I woke up and I was looking back on it. They had me on things that I just wasn't supposed to be on. I mean, you don't need to be on Manjaro. You don't need to be on glipizide. And you don't, in my opinion, and I'm not the doctor, and you don't need to be on insulin altogether. And so looking back on it, I'm like, man, I mean, maybe some of those things could have helped me, but putting them all together, that's when my health just went, I'm talking about, you ask Michael. I could not talk. I could not breathe. I could not anything. And he said, just come back and see me in 24 hours. Then they would send me home with something else. And I'm just like, I was just had my trust in them. If it wasn't for that man right there giving me my first box of this, I would not be here today.
That's awesome.
56 pounds down. I went from walking no steps by myself to walking. The last time I walked, it was 2.36 miles, and I could have done another mile. I'm like, I told him, I said, let's go another mile. Getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and look, it's 8 o'clock at night, and I could go on live 6 more hours or something. No more meds, no more jabs, no more having to help get out of the bed, no more anything. And it's just been, it's been all natural.
That is great.
So I'm the living proof,
Yep, that is great. Yeah, I saw that question in there, but I want to wait till David said his what he wanted to say, because we need to hear that. So I love that. Thanks for sharing that, David. So there aren't any problems with stopping the protocol because it's natural. So it's not like the shots where you gain everything back. Right. Now you do want to keep up with your lifestyle. So that there isn't an issue with stopping it and restarting it. So talking to your providers about what you're doing, of course, because I don't supersede your provider because I'm not your doctor. That's always what I recommend. I am, if they give you something they tell you not to do, show them what you're doing. I'm doing this. Is this going to be a problem? Lots of times they say it's okay to drink tea. Well, that's what the Unimate is, practically a tea. But make sure you show that stuff with them and get their, approval.
Great information. Great information. Me personally, if somebody's asking me about the protocol and everything, I was like, number one, we have 5 patents on our products, over 20 clinical studies. We are in the physician's desk reference, the PDR.net. Your doctor can look at these plant-based products. These are just tools to help you to be able to practice the intermittent fasting, getting more fiber in your diet, and consuming more foods from the produce section, because the produce section is where you're going to get the fiber. That's also where you're going to get the chlorogenic acid and things like that. And for about $5 a day, with a 90-day money-back happiness guarantee, me personally, it's kind of a no-brainer. It's kind of a no-brainer. And if you're willing to try it, I mean, I was skeptical. I'm not going to lie. I marked day 89 on that calendar because day 90, you know, I was going to get my refund, and there's no way that you could even think about giving me a refund for what it's done to me. 25 pills per day, 8 were blood pressure medications. So I don't have to take anything now but a Zyrtec due to COVID-19, and down 128 pounds without very little effort, reverse type 2 diabetes, dealing with chronic fatigue on a daily basis to where, you know, sleeping 10, 12 hours a day, waking up feeling like crap, to where sometimes I sleep maybe 5 or 6 and I'm like, David, I'm up. Let's go, let's go, let's go.
I'm telling you.
So, all right, Dr. Tiffany, you can end the show for us.
Well, I mean, the reality is, how long do you want to keep feeling bad and feeling sick? Is it worth to try something for 90 days when you get your money back? So my father ended up passing after his 3rd stroke because he was looking for a natural alternative, and I knew nothing about it. That was 20 years ago. There's people dying every day with these issues, and we have something that is helping them. At the very least, just do it and prove us wrong. Because what happens is you don't. And you're on here telling everybody about your stories. So how much is it going to take to be too sick and tired to give this a try?
And if you were invited by this live stream with somebody and you would like to try these products, get with the person that invited you to the live stream.
Yes.
If you, you know, if you need any help whatsoever, you know, you can find Dr. Tiffany on social media. You can find me. You can find the Healthy Pitmaster on everything. You can find David, TikTok, Facebook, and, you know, if you're sick and tired of literally being sick and tired every day, you know, give this a shot. Give this a shot.
There's 2 things I want to say before I go, Dr. Tiffany. What you're not changing, you are choosing. And remember this, if you don't make time for your health, you'll be forced to make time for your illnesses. And that's the facts. Thank you for having me on, guys. I appreciate you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tiffany, for being here. And I hope Jim's wife gets better. And with that, I guess we will see you next week with Dr.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for being on the call.
Good night.
Good night.